Hi guys, I'm Maria. Welcome back to Cine Club, the show where we watch movies that have recently come out and I review them for you. And this week's movie, of course, is the third installment of The Hunger Games.
Hunger Games, yeah, 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 Hunger Games.
And that is Mockingjay Part 1. So in Catching Fire, they broke free from the Hunger Games and they are headed to District 13, which is supposed to be a district that was already destroyed. We're finally out of the usual stuff. The war has started, the revolution has taken place in different districts, and Katniss needs to decide if she wants to be the symbol of the revolution, and that is of course the Mockingjay. And that is pretty much your movie in a nutshell. So from the very beginning, you're promised a much darker, much more serious movie, which is to be expected. From the very first scene where you see Katniss very distressed in the middle of the night, she's trying to keep herself together, and she's trying to remember the simple things about who she is, where she's from, and just trying to understand what's going on around her. You can tell that it's just got a different tone to it. It's not all action and fun and games. This is like the more serious stuff. It's no longer about teenagers fighting, whether that's fun or not. It's about, can we really take down the Capitol and can we really be free of them? The problem, it's not enough. It's 2 hours of setup and about 50 minutes of action that just don't make for the fact that the movie is very long and kind of boring. It drags on in too many parts that you feel it could have really stepped it up. There's this constant promise of a rebellion. You feel it vibrating around the edges of what's actually going on. You want to see it, you want to be part of it, and they just don't give you that. It's a constant massive build up to that very end that is very exciting. There's a few really good scenes in it, but then the movie's over. And it just does not feel like a cliffhanger. It doesn't feel like a good stopping point. It feels like I've wasted 2 hours of my life. I don't know if the fans agree, but I think one of the biggest mistakes the Hunger Games franchise has done is to divide the last installment in 2 parts. I think the Mockingjay is a book about maybe a little shorter than 400 pages, so that means you have divided this book and you have 200 pages for 2 hours of film. You're not going to have the strongest story. You're just not. It's possible you get to go more in depth and fans get to see all the details that they have read about, and maybe that is cool. But I think those are details that are more fun to read than actually see, like Katniss's internal struggle. She needs to decide if she wants to be the Mockingjay, if she wants to save Peeta, if she can actually do both. Those are moments that are great to read. The quieter scenes are better on paper, I think, than to actually see it on the film. So the consequences are that you get a much more detailed movie, but there are details that you don't necessarily need. There are scenes that could have been shorter and you would still get the strong message that they try to deliver. The pace is just horribly slow, and it would be fine if there was a lot of layers and complexity to the issues that they're facing, but they're not. And a huge chunk of the film is just centered around how we're going to portray Katniss to the Capitol and the districts. The whole point is we have to market her as the Mockingjay, and we have to make sure the districts see it so they don't lose the fire and they don't lose the heart to be part of this war. But it just feels so much like advertising. It feels like a political campaign. What is she gonna say? What is she gonna wear? How is her hair gonna look like? I get that she's supposed to be a symbol, but it just brings in a new tone to the movie that I don't think it fits, and you waste way too much time on that. Many say that even though it's a slow film, Jennifer Lawrence is the one that carries the film and she does a great job at it. Which is very true, she is the one that carries the film, but just because she's the one that carries it does not mean she makes it more interesting. As in all the other movies, Katniss doesn't really do much, everything just happens around her. She doesn't have a lot of say, she doesn't have that power, and that's something that I'm really waiting for and I just still don't have it. She does nothing in the whole movie except she shoots one arrow, and it's the same arrow you see in the trailers. And it's the most over-the-top, unfeasible situation that the moment she shoots it, I'm like, bullshit. I don't care how explosive your arrow is, I don't care what they put in it, there is no chance that would ever happen. And it feels like such a shout out reminder of why you should love Katniss. Like, hey, don't forget, she's still pretty cool with the arrows. I hated it. Apart from that, Jennifer Lawrence spends the film crying, breaking down, yelling in that quivering, breaking voice that she does. And I do feel like Jennifer Lawrence went a little too far with it. There were a few scenes that were kind of overacted and I didn't dig it. It kind of pulls me away from her. And that's not to say they're not important or very moving moments in the movie. There are some scenes that make me feel kind of uneasy, and that's part because, of course, Jennifer Lawrence can act and Francis Lawrence directing. The two of those combined just really work well together. But I think my biggest problem is that I just don't like Katniss as a character. I never have. I don't think she's a good anti-hero character, even if you can call her that. She's not a leader, she doesn't have a voice, she doesn't have power, she's their puppet. That's really what she is. And I guess you can argue that she is the symbol, but she just does so little. And even though she actually says it at one point that they're their puppets and they're being used, just like PETA is being used, it doesn't make me like her more for it. The supporting cast is good. You have really big names in this film. Philip Seymour Hoffman, of course. You have Julianne Moore as a new character. However, there's so many characters that they don't all get a really good time on screen. They're kind of rotating them constantly, and so you don't get a lot of Haymitch and you don't get a lot of PETA, but that was to be expected. And speaking of PETA, he was actually my favorite part of the movie, which is something I never ever thought I would ever say. But I think Judge Hutcherson did his part. He delivered it really well. His scenes are always very powerful, even though they're very short scenes. I think he was my favorite part. I think you can really see how much he's suffering, and that was kind of what made the film be a little bit more elevated. But overall, I really do think it's the weakest installment in the Hunger Games.
Yeah, 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 Hunger Games.
It's a 2-hour long trailer for the next movie that it's supposed to be about the rebellion, and I don't even have high hopes for that anymore. The movie is not doing so bad, but it's not doing as great as it has done before. It's got a 69% in Rotten Tomatoes, and the other two films were actually on the 90%, 88%, so if you compare it to the other ones, it's not doing so great. However, I think everyone's still gonna go watch it. It's still gonna make a lot of money. It might just actually be the highest grossing film of 2014, and I don't think anything's gonna stop that. I think people are gonna excuse it as being a good setup, but in my opinion, it was kind of a weak movie. So if I had to rate this movie for you, I would tell you that Mockingjay Part 1 is a movie you should just rent on DVD. Just wait for it to come out on Redbox, do whatever you want, but it's just a snooze fest in my opinion, and I hope that you don't hate me for it, and if you're thinking about unsubscribing because I said that, please don't. But guys, that's everything for my review of The Mockingjay. Tell me, did you like the film? Also, if you haven't seen it, tell me what is your favorite rebellion war movie? Whatever your answer is, go ahead and leave your comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you liked this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. You know that is always appreciated. And if you would like to see more, go ahead and click that red button and subscribe to my channel for more movie reviews and more movie talk type of stuff. But guys, that's everything for this episode of Cine Club. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed talking to you about this film. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next time.
Hunger Games, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hunger Games, yeah, 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 yeah. Hunger Games, bye! I'm really sorry I had to put you through that, but that is the funniest thing I have seen in a really long time, and every time someone says Hunger Games, all I think is, yeah, 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 I am Lord, yeah, yeah, yeah. As we were leaving the theaters, it was like jam-packed, and I'm about to leave, and this little kid was like, oh my god, this movie was garbage, and I was like, that kid is going places in this world. Why am I still talking?